I did not. All right, the chair will just say for the recording that she forgot to start the recording during public comments, but no business has yet been done. So about 11 minutes of public comment was inadvertently omitted. Thank you, Dr. Moulton, for reminding the chair. Try a screen share here. Desktop, great, hold on. This is so, are you all seeing the, no, it's not sharing it. Are you seeing my screen with the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's pull up the dual affiliations one. I do think this is a ripe issue. I do think it's important. I argued for it before, and in the problem area there, it's argued for again. I have a fear is not the right word I want to use, but worry is no matter which, and there's more than one side, but I'm going to use the word side very obliquely. And maybe no sides will, and then it'll be everybody. But this is likely to be a contentious convention. I don't think that's news to anybody. And I do think it likely that whichever side does not get their way, or no sides get their way, we may have some state parties that try to do this as some kind of bargaining chip. And I spoke to that before. So that's a good reason as to why I think this language should be in here, which is no affiliate party shall, and this would add in, be an affiliate or other constituent unit of any other political party. Then it goes on, or. Now let me give the against argument. This could be potentially inflammatory at a contentious convention. And do we want to put focus on those sorts of things or on the structural things in our bylaws that need to be fixed? And does this have to be in there? I like clarity in our bylaws so everyone knows where they stand. However, the fact is, even without this language, if some state affiliate party did that, it would be grounds for disaffiliation. Not saying an LNC would disaffiliate, but it certainly would be reasonable cause to do so, particularly if they acted on it in a way like to not endorse their presidential candidate. And there's already a history for that in Arizona. I prefer, though, on things you see coming, to put the warning shots in the bylaws. But this doesn't grant the LNC any more authority or any less authority, and it doesn't, the affiliate parties already who are thinking of doing that will probably do it whether it's in the bylaws or not. But I do think it provides clarity, particularly in the case of a judicial committee appeal for a disaffiliation for cause. If it's in the bylaws, then there's no doubt it's a just cause. I think there's no doubt it's a just cause, whether or not it's in the bylaws. So that's kind of the other side. So I almost withdrawing my withdrawal, but decided I just wanted to bring it up again once more to the committee. So I am moving that we reconsider our I think we yellow lined this, but moving it to the primary report. Would anyone like to speak to this? I can't see hands, so because of my dumb screen, let me see here. Okay, I see Dr. Moulton and then Mr. Seebeck. Dr. Moulton.
As I said earlier, my concern is having too many proposals in our report. So I would feel comfortable moving this into the report if we took out the I forget what it was called, the resolve affiliate disputes. But if not, I then I think this is a too many proposals type of thing. I would feel comfortable ordering the yellow lines and maybe putting this at the top of the pile. I'm just worried that our report is gonna become too long if we add more stuff without taking stuff out.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Moulton. Mr. Seebeck.
We need this. Very simple. There's been too many attempts on the other side of the coin to cross-factionalize over the past couple of years. You're either wearing this team's uniform or you're not. It's that simple. If we put it in the report, we're on record for it being approved by this committee. And if we don't get it heard at this convention, it'll be on record for consideration by the next committee and also by the next convention. So yes, let's put this in.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking of something I might want to, who is next? Oh, I don't think that was it. Focus. Would anyone else like to speak to this? Dr. Moulton again?
Just the point of information, that looking at what you have linked in, what is on the screen, it doesn't say date heard or vote. Are we sure this is a yellow line proposal? Did we pass this and yellow line it, or has it not been passed at all?
Oh, never mind. It hasn't been. I withdrew it. Oh God, I am really not with it today. So it's not a reconsideration. It's bringing it up for the first time because I withdrew it. Derp.
Could I make a motion then?
Oh yeah, then let me just correct the record. It's not a reconsideration. I am moving this proposal, Dr. Moulton.
Yeah, I move that this proposal be added as a yellow.
Okay, thank you. There's a point I forgot to say to the committee that I'd like to speak to now, which is relevant to this yellow line, the yellow thing. I do think we should order the yellows in case, no matter what, there is extra time. I am trying to find out from the Convention Oversight Committee, and that reminds me, I did not answer your other question on Convention Oversight, when the drop dead date is for these reports to be included in the convention binder. I have not yet received an answer on that. I think some of that is going to depend upon whether they're going with like one of those echo binders, or if it's going to be a literal binder where if reports are late, they'll be like, you can put it in late, but your committee's going to be hole punching it and sticking it in. And the other suggestion I made to the Convention Oversight Committee was, if reports are late, it's kind of like minority reports. Worst come to worst, they can be placed on the delegate tables. But I'm trying to find out that date. To answer, though, Dr. Moulton's question during public comment that I neglected to, I'm still trying to find out about adding rooms. The representative with the hotel has changed several times. So I think there's some communication difficulties with the hotel. I'm going to respond again to your email after this meeting, Dr. Moulton, and copy the vice chair, Andrew Watkins. He lives in the area and he's been the one tasked with trying to find this out. And that way you'll be kept in the loop of this conversation. Paul Bracco is coming in, Madam Secretary. But as of right now, no other dates have been held. Dr. Moulton, have you reserved anything, or were you waiting for that?
I was waiting for that so that I didn't get, like a Wednesday night, a Friday night, a Saturday night, a Sunday night, and have to move rooms in between or anything weird like that.
Okie doke. I might know somebody who has an extra reservation. Let's see if we get more rooms. And that someone is me. I might have an extra reservation because I was trying to decide if I could take some snoring that might be going on. And let's see if we can get this. If not, I'd be willing to like transfer that over to you, but I've already paid the deposit. You just have to pay me that. I just have to make sure that went through. So don't count on it 100%.
We
But-
can work on that after the
Yep,
meeting. I don't want
yep.
to take meeting time for that.
Yes, Mr. Seaback.
Yeah, just a suggestion to save some trees. Just put a QC code in the paper swag and let them look it up online. Otherwise, you're gonna print out about 10,000 pages, which is gonna take a lot of time. Let's bring it forward to the modern.
Yeah, the Convention Oversight Committee's already put the kibosh on that. The signal in that room, it's a brutalist building. It's a form of architecture. Those who don't know, it's like a war bunker with a lot of cement, and this is below grade. The internet connection in there is not great, and we cannot have people complaining. So the Convention Oversight Committee already put the kibosh on that. All right, so the motion on the floor, so yeah, I moved to approve it. Dr. Moulton was, because this is so odd. Yeah, I'm just gonna treat it, I'm treating it almost like it's a strike through. Oh, I don't even know how to parliamentarily handle this because I don't want to vote twice. We're gonna do a bit of heresy here. If you vote yes on this, it approves it as yellow. If you vote no, there's no approval, we're back to maybe amending it, not approving it all, or whatever. I don't know if that's correct, but I think it will, everyone understands what we're doing and no one's rights are being violated. So seeing no further debate, Madam Secretary, if you would take the roll call vote, let me explain what the vote is again. Dr. Moulton moved to approve, but as a yellow line, with the understanding that we probably will be ordering the yellow lines once we have a final report. We've done that job. So a yes vote would approve and stick in with yellow lines. A no vote would just leave it pending on the floor, meaning it could be approved, disapproved, amended, or whatever. Madam Secretary.
All right. Arrowwood, I vote yes. Bracco,
Pass to an alternate.
all right. That would be Mr. Roberson, please.
Yes.
Okay. Sazelski,
Yes.
Latham,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Moulton,
Yes.
Rowlett,
Yes.
Mr. Logan, Data Logan, please.
Yes.
Mike Seebeck.
Yes,
All right. Madam Chair, we have 9 yeses at this point.
I'll not be voting. So this has been approved and moved to yellow line. I had this other one on scope of valency appeals. I may want to postpone this. Oh, okay. I have an emergency. Dr. Moulton, would you be willing to take over chairing this while I take this emergency?
Sure.
It's something the national chair needs me for right away.
Sure.
And Mr. Bracco, would you take care of any amendments? Let me just let her know. I'm going to call her once I do this handoff here. I'll call you in 1 sec. And
All right, well, were you moving to postpone or?
Well, I'm gonna see if someone else wants to do I'm gonna do the
Okay,
handoff.
yeah, okay, well, I will not postpone it then. Let's discuss this and we could postpone it after we discuss it a bit,
Okay.
if we want to.
And let me just
so-
say before I leave and then I'm gonna hand the gavel to you, what I think the problem is, in case y'all didn't see it, it's the last
I see it.
sentence. Okay, all right, Dr. Moulton, you have the gavel and I'm gonna go on mute and I'll let you guys know when I am back. And Mr. Bracco, if you would take care of any amendments.
Okay, all right, so this proposal open for debate. I'm gonna start off by pointing out a few things I'm concerned about. That I like the proposal in general, that it opens it up to action and inaction, but I'm concerned that subsequent sentences just say action. So the second and third sentence, the second sentence says the Judicial Committee shall consider the question of whether or not a national committee, oh wait, oh, she updated that too. Okay. Okay, so I guess it's just the third sentence is the problem now. When I previously looked at the second sentence, it just said action. Now the third sentence says if an action is vetoed by the Judicial Committee. I think that should be an action or inaction. So that's one concern I have. I'm going to recognize Mr. Seebeck.
Yeah, as speaking as a member of the JC, how would we veto something that's not done?
Okay, well, if that's a question for the chair, I think the idea is that I think the idea is that some things should be forced to be done, and that by not doing them, they are violating the bylaws somehow. But we can ask Chair Harlos when she returns to clarify that. Mr. Latham.
No, I have the same question, also as a member of that committee, and just would ask anyone to offer an example, like what would be an example? Well, I think in our list, I propose the example of the, National Committee failed to pass a resolution condemning, I don't know, U.S. Domination of Lagrange points or something like that. But in all seriousness, I worry that with that inaction language, we basically empower the Judicial Committee to be kind of like a super LNC. If people are not happy with what the LNC does, they petition the Judicial Committee to say, hey, the National Committee didn't do this thing we want done. And I think that's problematic. Just so we're talking about the inaction language. And this is probably out of order, but I see Ms. Arrowwood's comment that we want to approve the minutes at some point in time. So maybe we will get to that in this meeting.
We will right after this. I do want to, on the subject of what was just said previously, one of the main reasons for this proposal was that it's not just the LNC as a whole body that may do things, but in order to evade appeal, things could be done by the party chair, in the name of the party, or theoretically various subcommittees of the Libertarian National Committee can do things, and are those things appealable? I think that's what this was trying to solve. I don't think this is necessarily the best way to solve it, but I think that's the thrust of the proposal. Okay, Mr. Bracco.
Yes, so two things. One is if we do get into amendments, I have a copy of the language, but I don't actually have edit access to what's being shared on the screen, nor do I have access to share my own screen. So it's going to be a little awkward. Second thing is, as something that might be an example of inaction, and something that we had discussed on the committee before, is let's say that the secretary fails to provide a delegate count. Like if it's explicitly required that either the LNC or a member of the LNC doesn't do a thing that they are like in the bylaws required to do, I mean, that kind of seems to me like something that pretty cut and dry there.
Thank you, Mr. Bracco. Mr. Seebeck?
Sorry, I had my hand, that's residual.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this topic? Seeing none, I propose that I move that we table this for and then we deal with the minutes from the last meeting, and then we take this off the table, and hopefully our chair is returned by that point. Is there objection to tabling this to take up the subject of approving the minutes of the last meeting? I see no objection. We will do so. Madam Secretary, have the minutes been circulated to the committee?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any proposed amendments to the minutes? Seeing none, is there objection to adopting the minutes as circulated? Without objection, the minutes from the previous meeting have been approved. So we will take this matter that is on the screen back off the table and get back to the debate on it. I think we're going to have to muddle through the amendment from Mr. Bracco without necessarily being able to see it on the screen. So could you tell us your amendment? Maybe you could put it in the chat, or you could email it to the committee. Or what you could do is you could open your own Google document and then send us a link where we could view it. So yeah, Mr. Bracco, go ahead.
So just to clarify, I don't have an amendment. I was just asked to handle amendments by the chair
I'm sorry.
before she stepped out.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Does anyone have any proposed amendments? Mr. Seebeck?
There you go. No, but per the chat, Ms. Harlos is back.
Okay. Ms. Harlos, do you have amendments?
No, and I would be open to postponement to workshop that last sentence. There's a problem with it. It only deals with actions when the whole thing was to make actions or inactions potentially appealable. And I didn't see that. I want to go, but I cribbed this off the California bylaws. Oh, you guys are now seeing my wonderful statue. Oh, you're not seeing it. Just so you see, this is my desktop, just in case. It's lovely, isn't it? Anyway, I'll stop. Sylvia liked it. So I'd like to workshop this some more and go and see how the California bylaws handles what a decision of the JC actually does.
Is there objection to postponing this proposal until the next meeting? Seeing none, it will be postponed to the next meeting. Without objection, I hand the gavel back to the chair.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Moulton. And if you all are just super curious as to what that was all about, something that you'll be very interested in will be released soon. I can't talk about it right now, but look out for, and it's not party drama stuff, in case anyone was wondering, but it is something you will find really, really interesting and nothing to do with party drama, which is quite refreshing. All right, proviso reconsideration by Dr. Moulton. And let me see if I can share my screen again. But let me pull.
Can I talk about it while you figure that out?
Please.
Okay, so proposal 7 and proposal 8 include provisos. Proposal 7, the proviso in there right now is for current sustainer members only. This shall go into effect when current memberships lapse. Proposal 8 is proviso for current sustainer members only. This shall go into effect when current memberships lapse, with the lapse date fixed as the lapse date which exists as adjournment sine die of this convention. So my concern is that the language lapse may be confusing to some people. Because if someone keeps renewing, have they ever lapsed? We don't want to grandfather people into $25 dues for the next 50 years if they keep renewing. What we want to do is the next time they renew or the next time they lapse, we up the dues amount. So my proposal is to add the name or add the words or renew after lapse in both proposal 7 and proposal 8, the first part of the sentence of proposal 8. There was also some confusion on the list about why is proposal 8, the proviso, different from proposal 7. I think it still makes sense for them to be different. The reason is, if you think about what's in proposal 8 deals with string donations, where they're month by month by month donations, aggregating them together. So the second part of the sentence of the proviso for proposal 8 breaks that string, so you can't keep adding to it, and it fixes it at a certain time. So I think it makes sense that proposal 7 have a different proviso than proposal 8. I think adding or renewals fixes the confusion. Madam Chair, is it appropriate for me to propose them one at a time or both at once, or what would you suggest?
They kind of go together, don't you? I would think so. Someone could divide it if they wish, but
Okay.
I
Then-
think keeping them together is the wisest.
Okay, then I move that these two proposals be amended as shown by adding or renewals. Sorry, add in or renew after the first lapse in the sentence.
Okay, would anyone else like to speak? I can't raise my hand. Let me see if, God, I hate Zoom right now. I'm looking to see if there's any hands raised. I see Mr. Bracco. I'll put myself after Mr. Bracco. Mr. Bracco?
So I think that having different provisos, like I'm not against the proposal. I think having different provisos, I guess really just the proposal 8 has the extra language. It's going to cause questions from people, and we can sidestep those questions by just having them be the same. And I don't think it hurts anything. Like, I don't think it hurts proposal 7 to have with lapse date fixed, blah, 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 and all that stuff. So, I'm going to not move anything right now and just let the discussion happen, but I'm very strongly considering just moving to align proposal 7 with the language of proposal 8.
Here's my concern, and Dr. Moulton will be right after myself. I totally get that whole issue with what is lapse, and I do think we need to fix that. However, for proposal 7, there's no concern. But I also kind of hear Mr. Bracco's idea of having them both just be the same. And if that's the case, it would be the proposal, the fuller one, that's proposal 8. And the issue is, it says when current memberships lapse or renew, and then it goes back with lapse date fixed. But what if they renew? I don't think the problem's been solved in the second part. I think it's solved for proposal 7. I don't think we solved it yet for proposal 8. I think renewals are still a problem with proposal 8 because it says goes into effect when they lapse or renew. Oh, maybe it is okay. I don't know. Now I'm starting to second guess myself, Dr. Moulton.
I looked at that part when I originally wrote this, and I didn't think the lapses afterwards needed an or renew. I thought it was just the first one.
Yeah,
I do think like we certainly need the second half of proposal 8's proviso. We can't just lop that off because that's important. It deals with the string donations. I don't think it would hurt if we put that in proposal 7. So I'm not opposed to making proposal 7 the same as proposal 8. I just think we can't delete the last half of proposal 8's proviso.
thank you, Mr. Bracco.
So I think that, yeah, that I would not propose touching the language of 7. It would be taking 8's language with the lapse date fixed and adding it on to 7. So I agree that 8 is fine. I am questioning why don't we align 7 to 8? The other thing, like, should we say something like whichever comes first? Like current membership lapse or renew, whichever comes first? Because I mean, I think if they were to first lapse, somebody were to first lapse and then renew, that's actually even covered by the old language, the existing language. I think the only thing is if they were to renew prior to the lapse date, there's a question of they are renewing under what rules. And I think that's the point of what we're doing here. So it's really just saying it's not just if you renew, but if you renew before your lapse date. That I don't know what the language should be there, but I think that would be the problem of why we're adding this in. Or why it's being proposed to add this in, I guess I should say.
I was muted. Sorry about that. I see what you're saying. I don't know how to fix it. Dr. Moulton, thoughts?
I don't see a problem with the language that's proposed. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. My understanding of what he just said was that he thinks maybe it does too much. The problem I was trying to solve is that someone keeps renewing, then arguably they've never lapsed. He's bringing up a separate issue, which is what if someone renews long before they have to renew? So if they have like a membership that would lapse or renew in December, and instead they renew it in July. And I think that's not a problem either, because then that's covered by the renew language. I don't see a problem with this language.
Okay, Mr. Martin?
I just put into the chat. I mean, can we just say for current sustaining members only, this shall go into effect upon renewal? That's it. That's all you need for both of them.
That's, how dare you be simple?
Well,
We
you
want to
know,
make this complicated.
I will make all the apologies before the end of the meeting. I promise.
Are you moving, or you want to discuss it before we move it to see if we could? Would you mind discussing that before anyone moves it?
Please discuss away. That's what we're here for.
Because I want to see if anyone can poke holes before we get into the Gordian knot of a million amendments, just in case. Mr. Bracco, then Dr. Moulton.
I'm gonna pass.
Dr.
I'm
Moulton.
still thinking about poking holes.
Okay, Dr. Moulton.
I think the language works. I mean, the hard case is always the string donations. So if someone's a monthly pledger and they pledge $5 a month, what we would like is that their next donation of $5 after the convention that doesn't trigger a renewal with proposal 8, because now we require all of it at once. So $5 more doesn't help, and they're considered a member as of right after the convention. The question is, like, what is their renewal date? I assume we're going to use the old definition as of their last donation, and then it would be 12 months from that. That's what we need to figure out, which I think proposal 8, the provisor there makes that clearer, because there's a lapse date that is inherent in all these things that is already in there based on that string donation. But so without the language that's in proposal 8, if we change the definition of membership, the question is, do some people who are members suddenly become not members? Because their membership came from $5 a month, and at the convention right now or the day after the convention, they hadn't made a donation of $25 or $50 or whatever within the last year all at once, because they'd made the string donations, the monthly pledge. Would they suddenly become not members? I think what the language in Proviso 8 is trying to do, which Mr. Barnes' proposal may not do, was say all those people are still members, and that their membership extends, from 1 year of, whenever, and at that point they need to renew. That's the hard case that we need to make sure we cover.
Mr. Latham?
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to wrap my mind around that problem as well. Just like, have you seen those Gantt charts that have the lines and they kind of stagger on top of one another?
Are you doing
And
that woman, the meme of the woman doing the calculations?
no, aren't you talking about Rain Man? That's not a
No, there's
woman
the
in
one
Rain.
of the blonde lady, like looking at all
Oh
these.
yes. Okay. There are competing memes with the calculations going on. No, but mine unfortunately is just a simple Gantt chart. So yeah, and I'm just, so we say upon renewal, and and this is me just again seeking information. It's not going to be the same renewal date for everybody, which would be unfair, I guess, right? Because some people would get shorted. The intention here, I guess, is just a year from what the original renewal date was. And so I just wonder if these versions provide that kind of clarity. And this is, again, my question, just because, as I have said before, I don't math very well.
Okay. I think you math very well, but now I'm glad we discussed it first, because at first I was like, oh, that's better, it's simpler. But now, after hearing Dr. Moulton, I think what is in proposal 8, however clunky it might seem, actually does it. Though we might want to change the word lapse to expire. So when current memberships expire or renew, with the expiration date fixed as the expiration date which exists at adjournment sine die. So if you have this person who has been giving $5 a month, their expiration date, which would presume their expiration date without any bylaws changes, if they didn't give any more money, they have an expiration date that doesn't get moved till they make another payment, and that is fixed. On adjournment sine die, it would be either 4 or 5 months later at the $5 a month. It's depending on whether they gave that particular month or not. And proposal 8 would have their expiration date fixed, either that 4 or 5 months later, whatever it is. So I actually do think lapse does it as well, but lapse somewhat makes a presumption that they're going to renew. Like when you say you're a lapsed Catholic, it kind of implies that you still believe, you're just not doing it very well. So to me, expiration, I think, makes more sense. It doesn't make any presumption of anything. Lapse, I think, kind of carries weird connotations with it that bring some ambiguity along where expiration doesn't. Mr. Latham.
Well, just I think from a salespersonship perspective, we would want to presume that they're going to get renewed rather than expire. Expire sounds a little too final, for me. So maybe lapse, maybe I can jump on the thesaurus and see if there's another, if we don't like lapse. But to me, I prefer lapse to expire for that reason.
Okay, I'm going to give you some pushback here. Once convention is done, except for people writing about their memberships, this isn't getting pushed out to, like be advertised on a billboard somewhere. So I don't think we should be looking at bylaws provisos as sales tools. I think we should be looking at them for clarity. I still show a hand. Is that my own? Yes, it's my own. All right. Are there any further debate, discussion? Mr. Bracco.
So because even if somebody was giving like $5 a month, then even if and then proposal 7 passes, proposal 8 doesn't for some reason, they're still good because that's more than $50 a month. So, or $50 a year. So
no, they're not. Oh, I see what you're saying.
If 7 only were to pass, then they're effectively giving $60 a year. They're spreading it over 12 months, but it's still more than the requirement. So I don't think that proposal 7 has a problem with the monthly pledges. It's just proposal 8. So, and I think that Mr. Martin's language solves everything except the monthly pledgers. Like, we don't want to take membership time away from them. They just don't get any more if they're going to continue to only do monthly pledges. Sorry about that. I think that is the problem that we're looking at. So part of me kind of thinks, and this is the opposite of simplifying, what if we had 2 provisos on proposal 8? So proviso 1 is Mr. Martin's language, and proviso 2 is something that we're going to have to come up with to handle that. I don't know if that's even better than what Dr. Moulton's proposing. It might be just, let's just forget about this, and we're going to have to accept it being not as simple as we want. I don't think I have anything to move, though, so I'm going to just go back to being quiet.
I'm doing the meme of the lady right now. Like, quite literally. I thought this was going to be easy. I'm really puzzled. Okay. So 7, raise membership dues on current memberships lapse. No, there's still. So. No, there's still a problem, Mr. Brecco. You're saying what 7. So let's give the hypothetical, and I like just using they give on the 1st of every month. Forget about what month this convention is in. I'm just doing January through May as just a simple thought experiment. say they started giving in January and they just became a member in May, and then we have our convention. I think we still need an adjournment. Here's the problem. So you have that January through May person. I think they lose their membership mid-convention because you're looking at a year. Oh, they'll still have given $50 for a year. But this hypothetical member, January through May, has only given $25. They haven't been given $5 for years. They just hit the 25, which means once this passes, their membership is, or no, it'd be lapsed in June. Okay, so that's okay. It lapsed in June, but then they do have another 5-month period where they're not a member, but it wouldn't lapse till June, and it actually be a 4-month period, presuming they continue to give $5 because they have to build their reserve back up to 50.
So,
No, and it has to be in a single payment.
but I think in your scenario,
Right.
sorry for jumping in. As of May 1st, they become a member under the current rules. As of May 1st, they become a member.
Yeah.
And at that time, their expiration date is December 31st. Because if they don't make any more payments, if they stop after May 1st and they say, I cancel this payment.
Okay, I got
they
you.
are a member and they will remain a member, not through end of May, or not through May, but through December, because once they hit that 1 year mark of their first $5, that's when they would lapse.
Right.
So that would be their expiration date as of adjournment sine die would be December 31st.
Gotcha.
And I think it would remain so with proposal 8. Proposal 7. Yeah, I think maybe that is a potential hole if proposal 7 passes only. Because then they become not a member.
Well, it's
Or-
until December. I think the
Well-
language needs to be the same for
Yeah.
both. I
think
think
it's-
your original instinct was correct that we need to take the proposal 8 language and make it also the proposal 7 language. But I see Dr. Moulton had his hand raised, so I don't want to jump ahead. Are you done, Mr. Bracco, or were you still?
Only thing is I'm pretty sure they would become a member again in October, not in December.
If they didn't pay anything else?
Oh no, they wouldn't. They would just stop. As if they were to pay through October, then they would remain a member because now you've hit $50 rather than the 25, and you just now you pay November, you pay December, another $5, and there we go. I think then that's sort of problem solved. But yeah, I think I'm going after something that might not be all that important. Maybe it is just fixed by aligning the language.
Dr. Moulton?
Yeah, well, two things. First of all, I think the problem that you're highlighting is a weird issue. Like, it's a matter of interpretation. So, like, if someone makes this monthly pledge for 5 months, leading up to the convention, becomes a member, this is only going to go into effect when that membership lapses or renews. So if they give nothing, it's not a problem that membership lasts 12 months from then. If they give something, then I guess the problem you're highlighting is that even given $5 would trigger a renewal and then they wouldn't qualify for membership anymore because now they've given less, which is weird. So, it's a weird problem where when you give more money, you get less membership, which is a weird definitional problem, which is an edge case. I'm not sure people would necessarily interpret it that way. The other thing I wanted to point out is Mr. Martin's language, if we think it's simpler or clearer, could just substitute the entirety of Proviso 7 and for Proviso 8 could do everything up to the second comma. So, I mean, I don't think it's any worse than the language there. So, I mean, that would be fine. We could just do all of the proviso of 8 in Proposal 7, which I don't think would harm Proposal 7. It might make it a little more complicated for delegates to understand, but maybe that complication is necessary. I don't know. For my part, I just wanted, the whole point of bringing this up was to highlight the potential problem, and now we've seen some more problems. So I think that's good. The fact that this hasn't been decided quickly, I don't think is a bad thing. Let's just try to get it right.
Thank you, Dr. Moulton. Mr. Rolette?
I'm broadly in favor of replacing the proviso of 7 with the proviso of 8. I also think that we might be able to avoid some of these scenario problems that we've just found by replacing the words in Proposal 8, which exists at adjournment sine die, with which existed at the beginning of. So that so if you're a member at the beginning of the convention, that's what determines what your lapse date is.
You just raised an interesting thing, which I'm not even wanting to deal with, but you just raised a really interesting problem with the $5 a month people. All of these conventions, it's theoretically possible that people's national memberships expired mid-convention just naturally. If they were a person who happened to give $5 a month on the exact day every month that our convention happens to fall in.
That's not just $5 though.
What?
If I gave $25
Yeah.
a year before halfway through the convention, same thing.
Yeah, and what if you weren't a member of a state party and you got seated with a delegation midway through the convention? Nobody would ever, I mean, remember the whole decredentialing drama that happened before. Midway before convention, you would no longer meet the qualifications to be a delegate. And that's one of the only cases in which I think decredentialing is valid. And we kind of had that happen in Colorado, not a lapse thing, but someone was discovered not to meet the bylaws qualifications after they had been credentialed. Interesting. I'm not even going to deal with that. This has been going on probably since the beginning of whenever that bylaws proposal was passed, that you had to be a state party member or a national party member. So it has probably happened a couple times, maybe. I don't know. I think where we're at is put the same language in both and let the LNC deal with any edge case that may arise. That is going to sort itself out eventually. I actually don't think any are going to arise. I think people start caring about sustaining membership when you're dealing with your delegate allocation for the next convention, and that's 2 years. And I think that's plenty of time for those damn apostates to decide what they're going to do. So I think we could workshop this to death and let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I think this will all shake out in the 2 years between when people start caring about whether or not they're a national member again. Of course, the National Party always cares, but the states and the people themselves generally don't, unless there's some state that has some kind of bylaws proposal, which I mean bylaw, which I know of none, that require you to be like a national member to be on their board of directors. I know they all require you to be a state party member, and a lot require you to be a national party member to be a national delegate, which you know I'm in favor of. But I don't know of any state party bylaws that requires national party membership for anything else other than that. So first Mr. Roulette, then Dr. Moulton.
Does anybody think that
No,
we should
none of
not?
us think.
Okay, very good. Does anybody think that making the lap state exist at the beginning of the convention instead of the end? If somebody has an objection to that, then I'm not that attached to it. But if it's a quick fix, I'm willing to move it. Does anyone object?
Yeah, kind of, because I don't see what it fixes.
It fixes the problem of the $5 dude who loses it in the middle. I believe it does. If you disagree, then I won't push it. But whatever.
I don't think it does. What Dr. Moulton, then Mr. Bracco. And I'll come back to you, Mr. Roulette. Just let you hear other comments.
Well, first of all, someone losing their membership in the middle of the convention wasn't a problem that we were trying to solve, I don't think. And if it was a problem we were trying to solve, it's a problem that still exists with this proposal. As we mentioned, it doesn't even have to be the $5. If our convention is, I don't know what it is, May 22nd and 24th or something like that, if you happened to get your membership on May 23rd of the year before, your membership can lapse in the middle of the convention with the bylaws as they exist right now. What I wanted to point out was the chair was pointing out that this isn't going to matter much because it would all be sorted out 2 years by the next convention, which I agree with. Again, there's some tiny cases that don't matter that much. But so one example I wanted to bring up, she tried to bring up state parties that might have national membership requirements, but explicitly in our bylaws, is if something's appealed to the judicial committee by 1% of the membership, then we have to figure out who members are, and whether someone is or is not a member who signs a appeal to the judicial committee could be important and could be affected by this. But that's, I think, the most likely way it would come up. Again, we're spending a ton of time for something that's not going to matter that much.
And I think I just, before I get to Mr. Bracco, I think I just solved my problem, though, that this hasn't been a continuing problem. Dr. Moulton, you didn't, this is a yellow line proposal. Actually, if someone was a member, $25 a year, and the $25 expired, yes, they would cease being a sustaining member, but it wouldn't affect their qualification to be a delegate, because our qualification to be a delegate is just to be a party member, not a party sustaining member. If you were a member before you signed the pledge, you're still a member. Whether or not you're a sustaining member, that's different, but the qualifications are party member, not state party member or national sustaining member. It's just national member. So if you've ever been a member, and as long as you haven't revoked your pledge, you're still a member. So that fixed that weird problem that I thought kind of existed and flew under the radar. Mr. Bracco.
So we're going so down the rabbit hole here, but for Mr. Roulette's proposal, I think it's a real problem that he's trying to solve. I just think that it's actually causing another problem of, if somebody's membership, say, expires on the second day of convention, they realize it on the first day of convention, they can't go and renew. Although, yeah, this whole like they're just sustaining membership expires. It's not their membership, so maybe that becomes
It doesn't
moot
matter.
anyway.
They've signed the pledge.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could just solve this by also having like this proposal goes into effect at adjournment sine die of the convention at which it's adopted, or whatever our standard language for that. Like, just have that there. Like, just it doesn't go into effect at convention, so it doesn't change anything in convention, so nobody is affected during convention. I that seems to me to be a more clear-cut way of solving the what happens during convention. Somebody's membership status is unclear. It's not into effect yet, so we don't care. That's what I would say we do.
Now we're getting back to the original problem, though. Your people membership, like the $5. I don't. What Dr. Moulton brought up is probably the most pertinent. What if the LNC at the post-convention meeting does something fucking horrible and people want to rush to get in a JC appeal while there's still a couple hundred people there at convention and get signatures, even though it might not be 10% of the convention, whatever, or the next day, whatever it might be, a bunch of people lost their sustaining membership who could have signed a petition to appeal an LNC decision. So Dr. Moulton is correct that sustaining membership does mean something for everything else. I don't think we should be able to change. I know it's perfectly legal. Like you can even make retroactive bylaws up to a point. I don't think they're ethical though. Legal and ethical aren't always the same thing. I don't think if someone thinks they have a membership to X date, we just tell, nope, no, I've altered the deal. Pray I do not alter it further is what it reads to me. Anyone else? Dr. Moulton?
I mean, we're kind of talking in circles. I think we need to get language out there. I'm okay with Mr. Martin's language if we want to replace the proviso for proposal 7 and replace the first half of the proviso for proposal 8. Another way of accomplishing a similar thing would be just to take out the word lapse or from proposal 7 and proposal 8. So it could just read when current memberships renew. I'm not sure lapse or really accomplishes anything, as he pointed out. I'm okay with once we figure out what the right proposal should be, or what the right proviso should be for proposal 8, we could mirror it in proposal 7. That's fine with me too. Let's just get some amendments going, get some language so we can finish this and move on.
Okay, I'm going to say my opinion. I think the language in proposal 8 should be the language in proposal 7. I'm not moving it because we've been going round and round. I think I think lapse does add something, and I don't want to risk it not having anything. And after going through all the advanced calculus we've done here, I would support someone moving to make proposal 7 the exact same as 8. Dr. Moulton.
I'm sorry, I'm still muted. My bad. I move that we take the language that I have listed for proposal 8's proviso and make it proposal 7's proviso as well.
Okay, so that would strike out that and just put in that. What I think I've spoken to it to death. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Does anyone want to speak to this amendment? Is there any objection to this amendment? Hearing none, the two languages are now identical. Is there any further debate on this proposal as amended? Seeing none, is there any objection to changing the current provisos in 7 and 8 to be what's here on the bottom half of the screen, what I just highlighted? Hearing none, they are changed. Yay. Okay, Mr. Bracco had, oh, I forgot about this. And just an FYI committee, I do, even though I know we started at 5 after, I do need to go at 9, and I need my Zoom account. So it's not like I can keep the meeting open. So I don't know what to do. If anyone objects to that, please don't. Because this close to convention, I sometimes have 3 committee meetings a night. Today it's just 2. Okay, I'm not sure we're gonna get through all of this tonight, but let's pull up. And I have a feeling someone proposed, and it might be Mr. Latham, another different language that I didn't see an attachment. I saw an email that seemed to say something was attached when it wasn't, but here's what we're starting with, which is Mr. Bracco proposed. Mr. Bracco, are you on the rationales committee?
Yes.
You guys will deal with the rationale if we change the proposal. We're not voting on changing the rationales here, because we're
Okay.
going to deal with the rationales when we pass the report. So if this proposal changes, just consider it referred back to the rationales committee to make sure the rationale still fits. That's why we have this subcommittee. We're not going to debate rationales here until the end, if people really feel strongly. So, Mr. Bracco, would you like to do your thing?
So, I would actually, I don't know if this has actually been, I guess I did officially move it.
No, you have to do it in a meeting. If you haven't moved
Okay.
it, it's not moved.
I would like to not move this because I like your language better.
Okay, so are you, okay, fine. But Mr. Latham kind of was in before me. I'm not sure how we want to handle this. Let's look at both of them, and maybe we can kind of come to some kind of consensus to get it down to one so that we're not going. I mean, we can go through the whole substitution thing and all of that, but maybe we can simplify. So here was what Mr. Latham had, which was taking
See,
care of
I don't know if that's mine, but
Okay.
maybe it is. I'm looking at the email and I think you have them flipped. I think that's Mr. Bracco's that we're looking at now. But I could be wrong. I mean, I'm just looking at what was attached to my email and it looks like the prior one. I'm gonna scroll up to the email that Mr. Bracco attached. Yeah, his was the one with the president or vice president.
okay. Well, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do then, because it gets confusing with all of this, and y'all can overrule me if you want. I don't know whose is where. Mr. Bracco submitted something, had said that he favored mine. So that's 2 of us, and we just outnumbered you, Mr. Latham. So we're going to start with mine, and you can amend it to look more like what you would prefer. Is that acceptable to the committee? Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with this one, and it can be amended from here. So it was pointed out what the problem was, is we were really worried about being able to have convention rules that a candidate who doesn't initially, it now says initially receive a majority, can be dropped And we've always done it in every round, whereas the bylaw, as it's currently reads, has it really, it's ambiguous. It could be only the first round. And this has been brought up, as I said, in the original argument by Mr. Starr and Ms. Matson multiple times. But then someone brought up, hey, we also have a convention rule that's a little bit different for the presidential candidates about people who get less than 5%, which doesn't have to do really with not receiving a majority. It has to do with a certain percentage. So what I'm proposing, you can see the way the markup changes are, but what I'm proposing this article read, I'm only going to read the final version. The convention special rules of order may provide mechanisms. I'm just going to say, I put mechanisms because we have two different rules, so it's more than one, under which when no candidate receives a majority in any particular round, I don't know if that's really, actually, I don't even think that majority thing, whatever, I'll get to it. I think that whole phrase can come down. That just, anyway, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. The convention's special rules of order may provide mechanisms under which, when no candidate receives a majority in any particular round, candidates may be removed from all subsequent ballots for the same office. Any candidate so removed will be ineligible to be a write-in candidate. I can see some issues, and I see Mr. Latham found his fourth one, which we can do as a substitute. I'm going to copy this in preparation. But I added a bit more than Mr. Bracco had, which is all subsequent ballots for the same office. I think that's new. But I know what's new is any candidate so removed will be ineligible to be a write-in candidate. And I just realized we didn't do something. Before we can even get into any of this, we have to vote as to whether or not we want to reconsider. None of this debate is lost because a vote to reconsider can get into the merits of the underlying argument. But first, we have to decide whether we even want to reconsider. Let me pull up the language as we pass it, because I'm sure that is what some people are wondering. What is it actually we're reconsidering? Mr. Seebeck, while I am pulling that up.
So moved.
Okay, but let me just, so everyone can see exactly what it is. Does anyone remember? Well, I could look in the table of contents, what proposal this was. Okay, proposal 10. That's 5. Well, how did I get so far? 6, 7, 8, 9. Where's 10? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, all right. So this is what it really said. Originally, excuse me, really. I am really tired. My mind is not with it today. We struck out initially, added in receives a majority in any particular round, thereby solving the issue of multiple rounds. The candidate receiving the fewest votes is removed from further consideration. The problem is, with the presidential one, it wasn't the candidate receiving the fewer votes. I think it was any candidates under 5%. Is that correct? If someone could take a look, that is the problem we were trying to solve. And then I kind of added in the write-in thing. So there's a motion to reconsider. Is there any objection to reconsidering? All right, hearing none. I'd like to just speak a tiny bit further to the proposal I put forward, which is, where'd it go? I wanted to copy this. Besides, I want to, they continually writing in people who were eliminated. Besides that, just being a royal pain in the butt for the tellers. And I think it's very frustrating for the delegates as well. They were eliminated. Get over it, kind of thing. But riddle me this. We have a head-to-head with between two candidates for president, and I know Noda's always an option. But let's just pretend like nobody wants Noda. You almost effectively Noda. So you've got Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers loses, but his supporters, rather than doing what multiple rounds is supposed to do, is have them either not vote at all or go to their who they like better out of the two remaining ones, just keep handwriting his name in, and no one can ever get a majority. Now, I know that can happen with Noda. I know Mr. Seebeck is going to kill me with this. Over the past year, in dealing with various parties, I've become a detester of Noda. I know Mr. Seebeck is Noda's biggest champion. I can't stand it. To me, I don't know. Whatever. I don't like it. It causes so many problems in so many ways. Is it a candidate? Is it a concept? Oh my God. Anyway, the fact is we have it. And I realize you can do that with Noda, but that's kind of something we've accepted when we baked Noda into our culture. I don't think you should be able to continually write in a real person who was really defeated, and their supporters just want to hold up our nomination, and it's not Noda. So what do you do? Someone can look at the bylaws, but just consider we're at an absolute stalemate, and it's midnight on the last, we've blown through the gala and we still don't have a presidential candidate. And it isn't that Noda won. People aren't voting for Noda. They keep voting for Mr. Rogers because his supporters won't give up the ghost. I think it's not just an annoyance to the teller. I think this is adding an extra wrench that can be thrown into our processes when someone fought the good fight and lost. Move on. Mr. Seebeck.
If they're ineligible, their votes don't count. It's that simple. If people are gonna sit there and they're gonna put in the same name time after time after time, even though they've already been disqualified from eligibility for whatever reason, then they're effectively casting a spoiled ballot and it shouldn't count. And then the values of what a majority is changes because of disqualified ballots.
No, I don't think the denominator changes with that. Because I'd have to look at the teller thing because I think we need to look at that anyway. But I spoke with
the majority of all of properly cast ballots.
I'm going to look that up. I don't want to talk out my booty hole because I've been doing that a lot tonight. Let me just respond though. I talked to JJ about this, and he said basically write-ins are member right, and you have a member right to write in whoever you want. You can't disqualify somebody who's otherwise. And I see your argument, and I would really wish he were here to bounce that off him. But I think bylaws need to be clear on that when you're dealing with something like a member right to write in somebody.
I would also argue, though, that they're by repeatedly doing this, even though they're ineligible, they're being deliberately dilatory, and that's being out of order by definition. Rights or not, they just can't do that.
No, you can do that on a ballot. You can continue to write in a candidate of your choice, even if you know you're making everyone stay. There's no point of order a chair can rule on against that. You can't exercise a right that is like a real right and be dilatory. That's kind of like saying rights conflict. They don't.
And that's my point. This is dilatory. It's dilatory because by the rule, they've already been ruled ineligible.
Well, now you're going back to the other argument, though. It's that they're ineligible and then it just wouldn't be counted potentially. I want to look
Exactly.
that up. We're going back and forth in like a parliamentary debate. It's not fair to the other people waiting. Mr. Latham, then Mr. Bracco, then Mr. Roulette.
Well, yeah, just following up on the last point, I thought maybe one solution there is just still allow write-ins, but specify that they can't be counted. But I did maybe want to move my other version as a substitute, just so we have them in front of us. And the big change between this and that, I actually like the doing something about write-ins, whatever we would decide to do there, whether it's this existing language or just specify that they won't be counted. But just maybe for those who have not been following the discussion on the list, because I know there's been some bounced emails there, I don't like striking the word receiving the fewest votes is, and the reason is that creates a scenario where if no candidate gets a majority, then potentially all candidates in the running are defeated. And yes, it could be the rare case scenario, but run up against time, and suddenly people get frustrated and they say, let's just do this all over. And since nobody got a majority, they can't be the candidate. So new nominees, and because of this bylaw, they're all defeated. And you could get 2/3 if people maneuver the convention that way. I would just rather not invite that scenario and let declared candidates be defeated in the normal way, round by round, if we're going to do it that way. Or if we again start to do ranked choice voting, they can be defeated that way. So that's the big difference between the substitute I proposed and this one, is keeping that receiving the fewest votes is language in there.
Okay, I'm going to answer what was kind of an implied point of parliamentary inquiry earlier with the question I left hanging, but I'm going to tell Mr. Latham, I don't know what this is without markup language. I don't understand what's going on here, but let me just answer on the denominator thing, whether it counts towards a majority if they're ineligible. It says on Roberts 4532, unintelligible ballots or ballots cast for an unidentifiable or ineligible candidate are treated as illegal votes. That is, they're counted as votes cast, so they do count to the denominator, but are not credited to any candidate or choice. So, Mr. Latham, do you want to explain to me what's going on here?
Sorry, because it shows up in the chat, but I guess the version you copied over didn't quite get it over. So you're only striking initially, and then in any particular is added language. The word further is added language, and then that entire last sentence.
Okay, let me get this all on one line first. Mm-hmm. Let's get it all the same size, and then you can explain to me, because I am really, really confused, which I've been all night, so that should be no surprise. Okay, so let me take out all this underlining for a second. Let's make it all black for a second. Okay, so, oh, don't want bold. Why did it all of a sudden like now be different? Okay, we're just gonna
don't do
deal
plus.
with it.
Just type it in. Just type in the size.
Okay. Oh, because it was proportionally. Thank you. All right, so we're striking initially, so this should be red, correct?
Yes.
I provide a mechanism under which one no candidate and receives a majority. So you're also
pretty much copies what yours is above, but it does not strike receiving the fewest votes is. And I guess it doesn't add the word.
No, it doesn't. No, hold on. That you just confused me more. It doesn't. So all of this is added? No.
No, but the last sentence, yes.
Okay, let me figure it out. You're confused. You're not doing it. I'm confusing myself, but let me just figure it out. So we are adding in any particular round.
Yes.
Okay. And that'll be blue. And if this isn't bolded, it's gonna bug me. And whoops. And then we're striking. No. Is it candidates? See, you have the candidate again.
Yeah, I keep it as the candidate.
But the presidential one allows multiple candidates to be struck at once.
Well, then I guess that's,
Let's look at that rule. Let's make sure that I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that was the original impetus for
Yeah, it's because
wanting to
multiple
reconsider.
candidates can be gone at once. Now, we might not like that rule. That's a whole other matter, but anyone remember what rule it was?
it's rule 7.2.
If no candidate has attained a majority, the candidate with the fewest votes and any candidates polling less than 5%. So this could be a massacre. So it can't be the candidate.
Okay, so how about let's import that language since we have and any candidates polling less than 5%.
Putting
The candidate
that,
receiving the fewest votes and any candidates polling less than 5% are removed from, and then further.
okay,
No.
I need this in markup language sent to me. I
Okay.
can't do this on the fly.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, we're gonna let other people just speak in general, but I'd like to say just one thing, so you can think about this, Dr. Latham. What you're doing is not allowing the convention rules to specifying it. You're moving a convention rule up into the bylaw. Then the whole point of the bylaw was to allow the delegates to make that kind of rule you're trying to stick into the bylaw, which would be suspendable.
Okay. Well, then I don't want to do that. But I do want to keep it. I do want to keep a lower bound, which is what the intention is there. So if that precludes, the 5% rule, then maybe it does. But I think it's in the rule. I mean, I guess I want to sit here and look and see whether we don't specify. Would someone say, well, rule 7.2 now doesn't conflict with, or does conflict with this bylaw, so it's not valid, which it could.
Okay, we're gonna let some other people talk for a bit while you're thinking about this, Mr. Bracco, then Mr. Roulette.
Yeah, so this whole 5% presidential thing was the reason why I brought up the reconsideration in the first place. I think I had explicitly put in there, if you you can also drop anybody under 5% in presidential. And I had thought that the chair brought up a very good point in her the alternative language, and that's why I like it better, is it's much simpler to just say you can drop however many people you want as long as you're complying with the convention special rules of order. Because if you have the 2/3 to suspend those, then those people aren't winning anyway. And I think that's very true. And that's why I think that the language that she had is better, because it's simpler and it actually is also solving the issue that I'm trying to solve. And if there was some time where there were 2/3 support to suspend a rule to do the same 5% thing on the chair race or something, or at large, so be it. So be it. Like, that's not the convention special rules going in, but if you have the 2/3 to suspend them, okay. I'm okay with that.
Mr. Roulette?
So I'm not a big fan of the last sentences in these proposals for 3 reasons. First,
Oh, there's one proposal right now. Mr. Latham, I believe implicitly withdrew this. He's coming up with something else, maybe.
that's fine. Oh, I believe he's working feverishly in the background.
Yes.
But first, I like in general, if a proposal solves one problem solved per proposal. Of course, that doesn't always happen, but it's a nice thing to shoot for. And if this is added in, it solves 2 problems. It solves the problem of the initially, meaning that you can't do it over and over and over again, which was the first part. And then it solves a separate problem of the candidate refusing to not be written in anymore. Second, this takes a relatively simple proposal and it adds a little bit of complexity to it, which I think ought to be avoided in general. And third, this solves a problem that is mostly theoretical. I am not aware of any time when this has popped up in reality and also caused a major problem to have. I could be wrong about that, but this solves a problem that we haven't had, which in general, I like not doing. So I would prefer, I mean, everyone else seems to like it. I personally would prefer not having the write-in candidates be a part of this proposal. It doesn't make it a proposal I would vote against. I still think it's a good proposal, but I like it better without the write-in section.
Hey, I'm channeling the brevity caucus for a second. I have a feeling this is not going to get resolved today. Rather than all these contortions we're going through because we figured out that this bylaw is probably conflicted with 7.2 for a while now, and I'm really surprised that that hasn't come up. Why doesn't this bylaw just say the convention special rules of order may provide mechanisms under which candidates can be removed in subsequent ballots for the same? I don't know. Now I don't know, but I'm thinking maybe we could just simplify it. And then any candidate so removed will be ineligible. Or the convention special rules of order may provide mechanisms for removing candidates from subsequent ballots. Any candidate so removed will be ineligible to be a write-in candidate for that same position or something like that. I'm not making any changes. I like it the way it's written as well. But so Mr. Latham, if you have a substitute, I need it in writing with markup. If you're just going to verbally do an amendment, and we kind of handled amendments loosey-goosey here. Mr. Seebeck and I had a conversation about this because I think all of our committees have done this before when they shouldn't be that way. So I don't, if you're proposing changing words here and there and here and there, that's not an amendment. That's a substitute, and
Okay.
I need that in markup.
Let's cut the gaslighting for a second. I did paste it into the chat, so what you're accusing me of doing, I'm not doing.
Oh, I'm not accusing. I didn't even look at the chat. I don't look at the chat.
Okay. So, I was going to also suggest that if we just want to continue this to another meeting, I'll do a 5th substitute, and if that's easier with blue and red and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I'm obviously not very good at doing it on the fly this evening. So it's up to you guys.
Okay. Well,
if you can get it to me. Well,
okay. Like I said, I put it in the chat. Apparently that's not sufficient. If you want me to go, we've got 9 minutes left. I can try to put it into a Word document and post that to the list and email it to you if we just think we're out of time. You know, I don't want to go through the exercise if we just don't think it's going to be worth our time tonight.
Well, let me have you. Okay. Putting things into the chat just generally doesn't work even on a good night because it doesn't have markup in it. And I don't understand what you're trying to say. So I copied my thing. Verbally say to me what it is you'd like me to do.
Okay, so just reading from what I posted in the chat, insert after fewest votes. So maybe find your cursor to where fewest votes is. Now, see, I don't have that stricken in my version. So receiving the fewest votes is still kept in there.
Okay, let's go back to the original then, and we'll work from there. So this is the original language. So rather than working from, so fewest votes, and then you wanted to insert something here?
Right. So then fewest votes, comma, and for nominating candidates for president or vice president, any candidate receiving less than 5% of the vote.
Okay, 1 second, for president, or was it hyphenated or not?
It's hyphenated
Okay.
in Mr.
Or
Bracco's
vice-
proposal.
Okay, and
I
for
just-
nominating candidates for president or vice president receiving,
Any candidate receiving less than 5% of the vote, comma, and then that's inserted right before is removed. So you're already there.
5%.
Now you're
Was there,
comma, and then add the word further after the
Missing
word
words.
from.
is removed from further?
You're missing words.
Yeah, but it should pattern. So where you have any particular round and you have initially, that should be the same.
1 second,
You're
let me
missing
just,
words.
uh. 1 second here.
Somebody says we're missing words, so maybe at
Oh,
one point in time they'll tell
Well,
us.
I want to make sure, please,
There
let's,
should be a candidate between vice president and receiving.
Yeah, the words any candidate after vice president.
for nominating candidates for president or vice, where?
And for nominating candidates for president or vice president, then insert any candidate receiving.
Okay, so would there be another comma?
No. At least
Okay.
that's not in Mr. Brack. This is a direct
Okay,
copy from Mr. Bracco's proposal. Okay, and then let's go to the second line to see where it says initially, strike that, just as you've stricken it above.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna copy here.
There you go. And then where
Okay.
you have in any particular round as new language after majority, add that as well.
And that goes after, it goes right here.
Yep.
I know there's some weird spacing, but.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Well, and then other than the last sentence, which I also liked.
Okay,
So any candidate so removed.
okay. You can tell me whether, is that correct?
I believe that's what I have put into the chat.
Okay,
And so just the only major difference is it keeps that stricken language receiving the fewest votes, and it adds that kind of parenthetical phrase to address the scenario of president or vice president.
and my Zoom screen went dead. Is it still showing, or is it showing my Zoom?
I'm seeing a
convention
convention planning
planning.
chat.
Yeah, you don't want that. Okay,
There you go.
good thing all the text was hidden. Okay. It's because Zoom keeps disappearing on me.
Do we want to blow that up just a tiny bit, the text for? There you go.
Okay, Mr. Seebeck was first.
Yeah, there was a case where people were writing in people left, right, and sideways, and it was at the last convention in Reno. A couple states did it, and it drove us tellers absolutely insane and irate because all they were doing was trying to slow everything down or run up the clock. And frankly, they were interfering with everybody else's right to have a properly run, speedy, efficient convention. So when there's an argument here about a write-in as a right of a delegate, I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with that because it interferes with everybody else's right to have an efficient and properly run convention. We need this in here to cut this garbage off so we get the job done properly.
Okay, this is definitely going to the next meeting, but there's some food for thought here. And Mr. Latham, like, I have to tell you, I feel completely horrible that you thought I was gaslighting you. That was totally not my intention. So if you felt that way, I hope you'll forgive me because you're a dear friend and I would never purposely do that to you. So please accept my deepest apologies if you felt that way.
Apology accepted.
Okay, so thank you, by the way. Problem I'm seeing here is two things. In reading that Roberts section, even if they're ineligible to be a write-in, they still get counted towards the denominator and can still keep people from getting a majority and slow things down. I'm tending to think we need to address this whole issue of ineligible candidates, not like the votes just not counting as a ballot cast. And I don't have a proposal for that because that just, came into my mind right now. While I think this will discourage people from writing them in, it doesn't solve the problem of them still doing it and being able to slow things down, at least under Roberts, which means if we want to change that, we either need a special rule of order, a standing convention special rule, and quite possibly that has to be in the bylaws and not in the rules. And I would have to research that. So that's one issue. But the other issue is this still conflicts with 7.2, or potentially does, because it says when no candidate initially receives a majority, and for nominating candidates for president or vice president receiving less than 5%. But 7.2 actually has both of those in there. The candidates that get removed, was it, what was 7.2 again? It was a really weird rule. Is it here? The candidate with the fewest votes. That doesn't even make sense, does it? The candidate with the fewest votes and any candidates polling
Yeah.
less than, oh, okay, I see what it's saying. Yeah, but wouldn't the candidate,
5% or less, and the lowest remaining gets stricken, is what it is.
that isn't what it says, though.
That is what it says.
Well, you could have a scenario where all candidates receive over 5%, but then you're figuring out, well, who do you drop? Well, the one with the fewest votes.
Right.
What if the candidate with the fewest votes has less than 5%? But there are
Then-
candidates that have 10%. Are we at first lopping off all of the candidates that have less than 5% and then
Yes.
also lopping off that guy with 10%? I don't think that rule is very clear of that.
That's the way we've done it in the past.
Doesn't mean it's clear, though.
Yeah,
It
the
means
rule
it's
could be more
custom.
clear.
Flip the community of and it still is just as valid.
I actually read it exactly opposite, that the candidate with the fewest votes only gets also dropped if they're over 5%.
Would it be fixed if you did a or rather than a and?
No,
Well, we're
doesn't
not
fix it.
amending 7.2 now, but we might want to think about it, because I think it's very ambiguous, because I don't read it the same way. I'd
Non-ambiguous.
be curious in asking some people without telling them what the issue is and see what they think. Mr. Bracco.
I don't remember why I put my hand up, so I'm putting it down.
Okay, well, it is time I need to scoot. So we have then, this is on the agenda for this link. Let me remove these other links here. So if you go to the agenda, because if you want to look at where we're at, you can look at that proposal, and it's down here, the two various versions. I'm thinking we can rewrite this whole bylaw and simplify it, but I don't know. But this will be up on the next agenda. And what will also be up on the next agenda is the reconsideration of moving the affiliate disputes to yellow. I didn't think we would get to that today, and I wouldn't have wanted to get to it today anyway, because not everyone's here, and I wanted to make sure everyone had proper notice. So we will then be adjourned at 9:02. And when will we be meeting again? Do you want to do 2 weeks, or do you want to do 1 week? Bueller?
I was planning on 2 weeks.
I'm going to look at my calendar to see if I had anything bylaws. What? No, that's March. We are in March, aren't we? God, I know. What day is today? It's the 28th. Okay, so we go to April. Next Thursday is my affiliate meeting, but I could miss that. My worry is we're starting to run out of time. Do you have a conflict next week, Mr. Latham?
No, I just looked. I can do it.
Okay, well,
Kind of do, but kind of don't.
I really don't think we have a choice. Because I'm going to find out the drop dead thing for the report soon. We may find ourselves in a situation where we're meeting impromptu at various different times. I would suggest that we workshop this on the list if there's any further comment or suggestions. Everyone, I don't know if they have editing privileges here. Well, I was going to say just do some edits here, but then that doesn't preserve the record very well. So I guess we just workshop it on the list. I think we're getting there, but I'm not so sure we're there. So we are adjourned, and I thank everyone, and I apologize for my very fuzzy brain this evening. When you guys hear what when you look for a show from me this weekend, and you might understand why I'm kind of frazzled tonight. Let's just leave it at that. And I hope you all have an awesome night, and we'll see you next week. And I'll stick a notice right away on the list so that absent members know.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just double checking. What's the new number for a proposal LL?
I can't do that right now. I'm late to another meeting that
Okay.
I'm supposed to be serving as parliamentarian at.
All right, no problem.
Okay. Ask it on the list and we'll figure it out.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.